I can see everyone. This is great. All right, so I'm just going to dive right in. Good morning. I am Boston City Councilor Julia Mejia, the chair of the Committee on Education and Government Accountability and Transparency and Accessibility. It's Thursday, June the 8th, 2023, and we are here today for a remote hearing on two dockets. Docket 0255, order for a hearing to discuss the Boston Public Schools, how they are addressing the needs of parents of English language learners, students. This docket was sponsored by Councilor Anderson, Mejia, and Louis Jean, and was referred to the committee on January 25th, 2023. And docket 0165, order for a hearing on government transparency and accountability towards service provisions and spending on ELL students. This docket was sponsored by myself and Councilor Anderson and was referred to the committee on January 11th, 2023. In accordance with the Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, modifying certain requirements of the open meeting law and revealing public bodies of certain requirements, including the requirement that public bodies conduct its meeting in a public place that is open and physically accessible to the public, the City Council will be conducting this hearing virtually via Zoom, and it is being recorded. This enables the City Council to carry out its responsibilities while adhering to and ensuring that public access to its deliberation through adequate alternative means. The public hearing may be watched. The public may watch this hearing via live stream at www.boston.gov/city-council-TV and on Xfinity 8, RCN 82, and Files 964. It will also be rebroadcasted at a later date. Written comments may be sent to the committee email at ccc.go@boston.gov and will be made part of the record and available to all councilors. Public testimony will be taken at the end of this hearing. If you wish to sign up for public testimony and have not done so, please email Ron Cobb at ron.cobb@boston.gov for the link, and your name will be added to the list. Spanish interpretation is available for today's hearing. Once you enter the Zoom meeting, click the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen. So, Spanish, me gustaría que la persona que está haciendo las traducciones, por favor, le deje saber a las personas que están participando cómo pueden accesar la interpretación para hoy.
Ok, gracias. Buenos días, mi nombre es Erika Pérez y voy a estar interpretando con Gabriela. Esta audiencia es bilingüe y para poder buscar el canal de interpretación, vaya en la parte de abajo, va a mirar un icono que parece un lobito, haga clic ahí y escoja español para escuchar. Si está usando su celular, hay 3 puntitos en la parte de abajo, presione ahí y busque interpretación de idiomas y luego escoja español y finalizado. Gracias. So for English speakers, we will have Spanish speaking folks today. So please go at the bottom of your screen. There's an icon there. It's like a little globe. Click there. Make sure to choose English. Thank you. All set now.
Muchas gracias. Okay, so I am joined today by my council colleagues, Councilor at Large Flaherty, President Council Flynn, District 2, Councilor Coletta, District 1. And for our administrative panel, we have Maria Angeli Solis Severa, who is the Chief of the Mayor's Office of Equity and Inclusion, who has a hard stop at 10:55, so we'll try to get as many questions as we can before you bounce off. And we're also joined by the BPS administration panel, which has a hard stop at 12. That's Dr. Linda Chen, who's the Senior Deputy Superintendent of Academics and Interim Chief of Office of Multilingual and Multicultural Education, hard stop at 12. Miriam Ortiz, Chief of Community Engagement, hard stop at 12. Dr. Lauren Vivani, who's the Interim Superintendent of Special Education, who also has a hard stop at 12. We have 2 community panels today. The first panel here is to testify on docket 0255 and consists of the following. Claudia Green, who is the Executive Director of English for New Bostonians. Audrey Martinez, parent leader at the Winship Elementary School and senior researcher at Turk, hard stop at 11. Ana Inspidola, who's a parent at the Winship. Dr. Jabot, who is the Executive Director of Immigrant Family Services Institute, hard stop at 11. I have a lot of work to do if I'm going to get through all these hard stops, which means no opening statements for anybody here. Our second panel will be testifying on docket 0165 and consists of the following: John Mudd, Emeritus and board member of the Black Student Achievement; Dr. Maria Serpa, who is the Professor Emeritus of Education and Bilingual Special Education, Director of Assessments of BSWDs and Biliteracy Dyslexia Project at Lesley University, Graduate School of Education; and Vanessa Quintana, sorry, a PhD candidate at UMass, who will be joining us at 11 when all of the folks are moving out. So we'll just be doing a little bit of switching at that point. In an attempt to accommodate everyone's time constraint, we're going to jump right into our testimonies, and I will not be having opening remarks because we are in short time. So when you ask your questions, you can share your remarks then. So that all being said, I am going to start with our first community panel, and I'm going to ask each person to have 5 minutes, and I will be timing you. So Claudia Green, Executive Director of English for New Bostonians, you now have 5 minutes and the floor.
Thank you so much. I just want to make sure slides are up. 1 second, sorry, we just had a slight miscommunication with your central people. So I will, okay.
Flavia, if you're not ready, we can go to the next one. It's all good, don't worry.
No, that's fine. Yeah, Ethan, if you're able to make Lisa panelist.
Yep, sorry, he just got let in now.
Okay. We good to go? Okay, I will start, and I think the slides will come up in a second. I'm so grateful, Councilor Mejia and Councilor Fernandez-Anderson, Councilor Lejeune for planning this hearing, and to all the councilors who are present, and the members of the Wu administration and the BPS leadership for testifying and listening this morning. English for New Bostonians originated with the city. Today we are an independent nonprofit that works closely with the city to create opportunities for immigrants, regardless of economic, educational, or immigration status, to learn English. I'm here today to talk about ESL for parents and caregivers, which is about kids' educational success, about parents' agency, thriving schools, and equity. And I'm joined on the panel today by experts who you just heard mentioned, who are going to tell you what it takes to put up a new ESL for Parents program at a school with a community partner, and what the impact is and why it matters. In February, we had the honor of introducing Superintendent Skipper and School Committee Chair Robinson to ESL for Parents. I believe they were sold, but I don't want to speak for them. This morning, I want to introduce you to that as well. I want to make a case for the city investment of $1 million to replicate and expand existing classes in school year 2024, conduct planning, assessment, and evaluation, and be back to you in a year from now with results to date. Since 2012, over 1,600 immigrant parents have taken part in parent English classes supported by English for New Bostonians. They are parents of English learners and English speakers. Parents gain English skills and a voice in their children's education. ENB developed a unique 21-unit ESL for parents and caregivers curriculum that we frequently update and we share on our website to keep it relevant. It focuses on topics listed here, including navigating schools, advocating for your children, and preparing for college. The classes use authentic school-based materials that become text, such as using the district calendar around the school year, report cards, attendance policies. As an example, we have a unit on parent-teacher conferences that focuses on the importance of being able to ask questions, and share insights about your kids with the teacher and be able to do it without a translator. The classes cover going to school site council or district meetings. They prepare, they participate, share back, and gain leadership skills. They go to city council hearings like this one, and many of them are here today with us and will testify later. Parents also learn about careers, and they prepare for new jobs and advancement. Graduates become school ambassadors to other newcomer parents. Their children go to summer camp, and they go to college. As you can see on this next slide, ESL for Parents is offered through strong community partnerships that serve diverse geographic and linguistic school communities in Rosendale, Chinatown, Roxbury, East Boston, Dorchester, and Brighton. Parent ESL leads to increased parent engagement in children's learning. Parent ESL helps 2 generations at the same time. At home, most importantly, our data show that parents are reading more with their kids, they're talking more with them about school and college, they're better able to help with homework and talk to teachers. At school, these classes become an entry point for immigrant parents into the school. Classes reinforce and help them learn how to participate more fully in the life of the school. ESL for Parents is scalable, it's complementary to culturally and linguistic responsive education, and it's essential to helping parents and families survive and thrive. We measure impact. We use pre- and post-English assessments and student surveys, which we make available in 8 languages. Our data show that these customized in these customized classes, parents' English learning gains are high, and that by their own measure, parents are more confident and involved in their children's education. Research from the National Center on Family Learning shows that children benefit when parents are actively engaged in their education. They have better attendance, they have higher grades and better test scores, higher promotion rates, and they're more likely to graduate and continue studying. Through expansion, new classes would be offered in different formats in school buildings, nearby community sites, or virtually. They can take place at any time of day, preferably with childcare and after-school programming They complement EPS's Department of Adult Ed programming. They do draw on adult educators that are employed at community-based organizations. They draw on our expertise of curriculum, capacity development, evaluation, and management. And they can be prioritized for particular school communities. As our data show, nearly every school in the city needs to find effective ways to reach and include immigrant parents. For 49% of all families, English isn't their first language. This doesn't mean that those parents cannot speak English, but it's the best proxy we have. And it's considerably higher than the 32% of children who are English learners. This is a broader population. If schools can't communicate with families, they can't provide the best education to their kids. We need to do more, and we can. As I said at the start, EMB is here today to ask the district and the city to make an investment in immigrant children and families by expanding ESL for Parents through additional school and community partnerships. Funding to support these classes has been entirely through private foundation dollars raised by EMB, including both restricted and general operating dollars. We need your investment and your leadership to expand. Thank you so much for helping to further this vision and making Boston a model, as always. I want to applaud parents and teachers and ESL organizations, community leaders, and principals joining this call today. And now I want to pass it on to Ms. Martinez for the Peckham. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Ms. Martínez, si va a hablar en español, nada más que le quiero dejar saber que tiene 5 minutos y estoy bien agradecida que está aquí. Ms. Martinez, if you are here and ready to go, I am going to start the timer. Thank you.
Which she is.
Hi, good morning. So I'm a parent at the Winship, but I work at Turk as an educational researcher. The focus of my work has been mostly engaging both families and paraeducators in early math. I've been very involved in the Allston-Brighton neighborhood for the last 10 years. First as a parent screener for the United Way Thrive in 5 program, and then later as a volunteer representative for the Boston Public School District English Learner Committee. During these 10 years, the top thing that I learned that all non-English parents were interested in were English classes. One, because it would enable them to support their children more effectively, and second, it would enable them to get better paying jobs. For example, many parents shared that their supervisors would promote them if they could speak better English. And in this way, they could better support their family and have more home security, since many of them are continually having to move because of increasing rents. While working with DLAC in Boston Public Schools, other parents and I began to create a survey to assess the needs of English learner parents. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic and challenges with the Office of English Learners, the survey was never implemented. During the pandemic with the Winship School, we began to have weekly weekend Zoom calls with Spanish-speaking parents. During these calls, many parents continued to express a need for English classes. Then when attending a meeting, a school committee meeting on Zoom, I learned about the English for New Bostonians. I then connected them with our school principal. And at Winship, we were really struggling with parent engagement. Together with the support of our new principal, Brian Radley, we held focus groups and equity roundtables with parents to understand if English classes was something that would be valuable. And across the board, that was definitely something that all parents were interested in who did not speak English fluently. So then we carried out a survey in the school to find out which days and how much interest there was in the schools. And after that, we were able to sign up parents for classes. We began doing this, not this school year, but the prior school year during the spring. And I've seen huge changes in some of the children whose parents have been participating. For example, there was one child who was regularly crying at school, and by her mother coming into the school and having many conversations with teachers and the principal and other staff, this child became so much more confident by the end of the school year. Another child who he really had no instruction during the pandemic, very smart, but really behind. And so he started to not come to school, wasn't doing any schoolwork. But once his mother began coming to English classes and she was able to connect with the teacher and other staff members, we've been able to help him. Oh, and also we created a partnership with Boston Partners so that while parents are taking English classes, the children who need extra support are getting tutoring from Boston Partners. And so he has now begun to do his homework regularly. His attendance has improved, and it's been really amazing to see the change. I've also began to see the parents who are the hardest to reach are physically in the school, meeting more regularly with other parents also, and forming friendships that support the children outside of school. They're also beginning to communicate more directly, not just with teachers, but also school counselors. They have been learning about how to navigate the BPS system, understanding report cards, the importance of good attendance, and also how to apply for summer camp. Also what we did was we scheduled many important events for parents during the times that English classes were held so that occasionally they could attend some of those meetings that normally they don't participate in. I know in order to expand this program, I know personally many parents from other schools in Boston public schools who are active in the school parent council and would be very interested in having English classes at their schools. Similarly, they can do surveys with families. However, we definitely need more multilingual communication with families, not just through emails and flyers, but more importantly, phone calls, since some of our families in Boston struggle with literacy even in their native language. Partnerships with other programs that EL families would support academic enrichment, extracurricular activities, and meals for children in the evening while their parents are attending English classes would really give parents the confidence that this is a good thing for them to be doing with their children while they are taking English classes. Therefore, high quality caregivers and food and good activities are very important to be budgeted for schools to carry this out. Just also another thing that would help it be more successful is if we can involve teachers more in this. Parents have a lot of respect for teachers, and if teachers themselves can let parents know about these opportunities, I think it would have a huge influence. So just going a little bit off script, I have seen a huge change in the families that have participated. I know that there is a huge need, and if we could just make this possible, this is actually the focus at Winship has really been on family engagement, and I have struggled with it for the last 6 years. And until we started the English classes, did I actually see a shift in parent engagement. And as we all know, our public school system is a broken system, and the only way to ensure the success of our children is to have parents hand in hand involved with the teachers so that we don't let our children fall through the cracks.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Really do appreciate your testimony. I'm going to just give a little run of show so that everybody knows the direction that we're moving in. I'm going to go next to Ana Spindola, and then to Dr. Jabot, who has a hard stop at 11. And because we're doing 2 different dockets, I want to make sure that we do that we maximize the most use of our time. And following that, we're going to go straight into the administrative panel. We're going to be starting off with Chief Solis Cervera. So, Ana, you now have 5 minutes and the floor. Ana, por si acaso necesita saber, te toca a ti ahora hablar, si necesita traducción en español o si se necesita cualquier asistencia, lo deja saber.
Ok, gracias. Hello, my name is Ana Espíndola. I'm from Mexico. I have lived in USA for 9 years. Right now, I'm living in Brighton. I have 2 children. My daughter Elizabeth, she is 8 years old, and she's studying at Winship School. My son Arthur, he is 5 years old, and he's studying at Orchard Gardens. Next year, he's going to Garnet Pilot Academy because he needs an inclusion school because he has autism. My husband takes English classes too, but he can't be here today. My children are the reason why I decided to study English, and it wasn't Winship School because my daughter is studying there. Apart from the fact that they are giving us free classes there, they also have childcare during the class that feel all the parents comfortable, knowing that they are in need in a good place and with excellent people. The English class helped me to have a better communication with my children's teachers and school personnel, such as the nurse, the librarian, and my son's therapist. I remember in my English class when we learned about the meaning of the grades of the report cards, and we prepared some questions to ask the teacher in the conference. This helped a lot. English class helped me to help my daughter with the homework, to read books with them, to give direction to my son, because sometimes he answers faster when I speak in English than in Spanish. English classes gave us the opportunity to meet other parents from different grades and the same grade as my daughter. And now we are going friends as well as our children. We are from different countries and we have different cultures, but we have the same purpose, to be there for our children. My husband and I have a lot of support from this community when we are in the process to move my son to the inclusion school, and we are very grateful for that. I'm very happy to have met such a nice people, and our children are missing every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon. Now it's easier to communicate with others, and I feel more confident than before. When I go to the supermarket and ask for something, or talk with my children's pediatricians, or with my son's psychologist, talking without a translator is the best. Before, when we need a translator, the translator will be on the phone, and they often couldn't hear very well, and it will be slowed down the conference. Also, my husband and I want to talk with our children's doctors and therapists together, but we don't speak the same native language. He's from Brazil. With a child with special needs, these meetings include a lot of people and they are very important. It has been very helpful for our family to know enough English that we can conduct the meetings in English. I hope that many parents have the opportunity and give themselves the opportunity to learn, because all this is for our children. Thank you.
Gracias, Ana. Thank you.
Gracias.
Estoy un poco emocional oyéndote a ti hablar, ¿oíste? Porque mi mamá todavía no sabe hablar inglés y ha vivido su vida entera aquí, como quien dice. So it's a beautiful thing to see you express yourself in a language that you had to learn how to speak in this country. So thank you for doing that and showing that to us.
Yes.
I'm going to go down to Dr. Jabot. You have the floor, and I'm so excited that you are here with us.
Thank you so much, Councillor Julia and everyone else for having us. My name is Dr. Gabo with IFSI, which is the Immigrant Family Services Institute. You've already heard all of the benefits of having, of giving access to English classes to parents. I'm not going to repeat any of that, but just to say that at this time, we need to pay attention to the trends. We need to pay attention to the statistics, because as the director of IFSI, Immigrant Family Services, for the past 2 years, we have seen a huge influx of new immigrant parents coming to our community. And most of them spend a lot of time in Central America, whether or not Brazil, Chile, before they make it here. And they all have children of school age. And they all need access to English classes so they can really help their children navigate the new system. First, they need to learn how to navigate the system themselves and then help their children. So one thing that I always said when it comes to education, we need to be smart in our investment. So often we spend so much money around building, around other stuff, but the key ingredient that we need for the success of our children, we miss out on that. Because there is no success, there is no excellence for our children if the parents cannot get involved, if the parents cannot have a conversation with their teachers. And when we are looking at the statistics, the growing number of English language learners, students, and parents who are in our community, the smart investment to do is to invest in those parents. And those investments are not costly at all. I remember a couple of years ago, we did a pilot project at the Matterhorn. ENB was involved, a number of other organizations were involved, where early in the morning when parents drop their children, they can stay in school to, not only learn the language, but also to understand their civic engagement. We also did the same for afternoon, because some parents can come in the morning, others can come in the afternoon. So we were involved in the school directly to serve those parents. And guess what? Before we know it, Matterhorn was reporting a very low level of parent engagement. They were complaining that parents never come to school meetings, they don't answer to the teachers, and because of this program that we had in the school, early in the morning, midday, and at the end of the day, the parents were coming. They became more engaged, and we have seen a lot of progress for their children. And guess what? It was not that costly. This investment, if I remember, was something close to only $75,000. And we had such a huge impact by being present, by helping the parents learn the language, understand how to communicate with teachers, understand how to support their children, and to be part of the school community. It was a very, very small investment that had a very high return. And that's why today I'm here to just invite everyone to be smart in your investment. If we want to see changes in our public school, if we want to see children, excel, if we want to see a stronger, better community in the next few years, we need to invest in our children. We need to invest in our parents, because without parents, there is no way that we can really help those children to succeed. So last week, we did a quick survey around the new parents who are coming to the community, and we asked them to register for English classes. Guess what? 1,200 parents registered for English classes. 1,200. And currently, we are dealing with a flow of over 12,000 new individuals. And most of them are parents, most of them have babies, most of them are pregnant, which means that we need to really start investing and investing smartly, so we can see some success. So I am so pleased to partner with ENB and with all of the other organizations, pushing for our public school to invest in our school system by investing first in our families, in our parents. We need access to English classes. It's a small investment, but it's one that brings so much return. So let's be smart. Let's be intelligent, and let's invest in English classes for our parents. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. If anyone is tuning in, I hope you got the message. We need more investments. And so we have the people here joining us from the administration that can talk to us about what's going to be that pathway to get there. So I'm really happy that we are able to bring folks who are doing the work, both out in the streets and inside our buildings, to help support this conversation. So in the interest of time, I am going to just dive right in. I believe, Chief, you're only with us until 10:55. So I'm going to have you if you want to have some just responses to what you've heard, or if you have a presentation, just let us know. You're going to be next, then followed by Dr. Linda Chen, and then Miriam Ortiz and Lauren Vivani. So I just wanted to give you the run of show so that you know who's up next. And then, I think what I'd like to do for my colleagues is I'm going to have, instead of going into questions for this docket, I'm going to go to the next panel, just because they're very similar, but this is more around the accountability and the spending, and then do a round of questions while we still have the administration with us. So I'm taking the chair's prerogative to make sure that we have the best use of everyone's time here. So I am going to Chief Solaris. Chief Mariangeli, if you're with us. Okay, I am going to, while we wait for Chief Mariangeli Solar Severos to join us, I'm going to go straight to Dr. Chen. You now have 5 minutes and the floor.
Thank you, Chair Mejia and City Council members. Chief Miriam Ortiz and I are joined by members of the BPS Office of Family Engagement, as well as the BPS Office of Multilingual and Multicultural Education and the Office of Special Education, who can certainly support with any specific questions that you all may have. We appreciate the opportunity to discuss our multilingual learners and their families, who make up over 1/3 of our students in the Boston Public Schools. We also appreciate your partnership. This continued partnership with the City Council is critical in providing the appropriate support for our multilingual learners. Go to the next slide, please. Our multilingual and multicultural students bring so many assets to our schools and communities. It is our job at the BPS to celebrate and highlight how they strengthen our schools and city, and to provide them with the educational supports to find success in college, career, and life. Our students who are former English learners outperform all other students on our standardized testing. We believe that the skills they develop as multilingual students benefits them in all academic areas. BPS must ensure that our multilingual learners have access to excellent ESL and bilingual instructional support. The foundation of ensuring this happens with oversight of the minutes of ESL instruction students receive and ensures the teachers in front of our students have the appropriate qualifications. And the teams have worked together across the offices of multicultural and multilingual education, the Office of Schools, Data and Accountability, and others have worked together to increase our compliance levels for students to the highest levels since we have started reporting this information in accordance with the Department of Justice's successor agreement with the BPS. You'll see here, as of our March reporting to the Department of Justice, 81% of our multilingual learners are receiving the full prescribed number of minutes that are of the recommended instruction type with an English as a second language and ESL licensed teacher, surrounded by the DOJ approved groupings of students for 100% of their time in school. 94% of multilingual learners are receiving the full number of minutes prescribed by the DOJ successors agreement. 94% have all of their courses in the approved instruction type. And 93% are receiving all of their ESL services from a fully endorsed ESL licensed teacher. So what are we doing to continuously increase and sustain these numbers? We are working with our colleagues in the Office of Human Capital to expand pathway programs for current and new educators to become fully endorsed with an ESL license. We are also prioritizing scheduling of our multilingual learners and students with disabilities. We are supporting schools to do this through guidance memos and training over the summer and ongoing monitoring and support throughout the school year as needed. We are building up our own equity and accountability team to align with our regional structure to bolster oversight and support of schools to ensure all students are receiving the appropriate number of minutes of services. We also work with multiple touch points in the schools to provide guidance and training of school-based staffs to support our multilingual learners, specifically the LATFs, to improve data quality and reviews. We're making improvements in this domain of data quality with the right systems in place. We will ultimately facilitate improved student learning experiences. I'm going to go on to the next slide here in the interest of time. We are proud to serve over 4,000 multilingual learners with disabilities in our schools. It is critical to the success of our multilingual learners with disabilities that they have access to strong ESL instruction and the specialized services they need to access the curriculum. Certainly in our expansion of bilingual programming, we are working to expand that access as well for our multilingual learners with disabilities. We provide all of our multilingual learners with disabilities with access to strong ESL and bilingual instruction and specialized academic and related services support. Part of this includes building a strong infrastructure in which we are adding a new director of multilingual learner with disabilities that will report both to special education as well as multilingual learners. We also have quarterly reviews of our English language services to make sure that there is accountability and support to schools in each of our regions and through the partnership of our schools division and school superintendents. In addition, we have focused on expanding the language capacity of our cadre of specialized services personnel. For example, in terms of the numbers of paraprofessionals that self-report speaking a language other than English, we have 772, and it covers over 12 different language groups, including Arabic, Cantonese, Haitian Creole, Somali, Spanish, and Vietnamese. We also have 40 school psychologists who are either bilingual or multilingual. I'm going to move on to the next slide. I think this is largely familiar to folks because it has been shared publicly, but you'll see here on this slide that in the fall of this year, we submitted a strategic plan for multilingual learners. And this slide displays the priorities which the teams are working hard to operationalize. The district is committed to expanding native language access for students, improving instruction for all students, especially for multilingual learners with disabilities, partnering with our families and community-based organizations, and also to ensure that students have full access and opportunity to core instruction. We are working with a partner to help us conduct readiness with schools to expand dual language and transitional bilingual education programming for expansion in the coming years. We're also expanding our work with native language assessments to better identify and support our students with the services that they need for learning. In order to best support our multilingual learners, we must have a strong infrastructure for developing these services. And as I mentioned before, we are making sure that we have a dual report for our multilingual learners with disabilities to both special education and multilingual learners. With that, I'm actually going to turn the time over to Chief Ortiz to talk specifically more about the family engagement parts of your questions.
Yes, and I just want to note that the part that you just went through, Dr. Chen, it's really covering the second docket that we're going to review, right? So it's all good. You've already used up your time, which is great, which will give the advocates who are going to be going in that section some perspective, insight to what the administration is doing to support our multilingual learners. So thank you for that. And I'm going to move on to Miriam with the hope that, and also Dr. Liani, you are going to be, unless you are talking specifically around the engagement of parents and the role that BPS is playing to help support ensuring that parents understand IEPs in ways that make sense. And, you know, that's the content that we really want to focus on this particular issue. So if you have remarks around that, let me know so that we can make sure that we bring you in. I'm going to go to Miriam Ortiz in regards to this particular docket that we're on right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. So as a district, we recognize the importance of engaging with families as partners in the journey of educating all our students. The Family Resource Specialist team in the Office of Multilingual and Multicultural Education is pivotal in making sure those connections take place. They share materials and resources with English learner parents, families. All information and resources are shared in the parent preferred language, including PowerPoint presentations, video tutorials. They have YouTube videos, social media platforms, etc. There were over 515 English learner parents who joined the English Learners Advisory Committee bi-monthly meetings throughout this last year. Family Resource Team has ongoing collaborations with community-based organizations. They hold information sessions, and topics include EL program options, school choice, welcome services, etc. In addition to the work of the Office of Multilingual, Multicultural Education Family Specialist Team, the Family School Engagement Team in the Division of Family and Community Advancement hosts virtual workshops on school parent council and school site council trainings, and we offer interpretation services for all the sessions. Parent University piloted a new learning series called Parent Essentials to support families' ability to navigate BPS systems and better understand curriculum in children's classrooms. Parent University provides more than 38 unique training opportunities from early literacy to math support, ESOL to parent leadership. Finally, the family engagement facilitators work with liaisons and school leaders to support school parent council elections, school site council elections and trainings, and coaching on shared decision-making. Next slide, please. With regards to the overall request for services via the Translation and Interpretation Office, requests have increased year over year. I would like to highlight that the district continues to make necessary investments to increase access for families for whom English is not their first language. The current district language access service offerings includes, but it's not limited to the following: translation and interpretation services, Lionbridge telephonic interpretation services, Talking Points, which is a two-way communication app that helps teachers reach all parents or guardians, regardless of language, via text messages in over 100 languages, rental of interpretation equipment that's available for schools, staff and family professional development and resources. We also have a parent feedback form that allows families to provide feedback on the level and quality of services they receive. And as you can see on the screen, in addition to those mentioned already, we're piloting Translate Live, which is a two-way communication device software that allows people the ability to instantly have a real-time back and forth conversation, no matter the language, disability, location, or device. The district has continued to invest in translation and interpretation. Year over year, our general fund budget increases to support strategic investments. For FY24, the recommended budget is for $7.3 million, and this expansion represents an increase in FTEs currently from 10 to 13. We recognize that the work of engaging EL families is ongoing, and we must continue to innovate to increase access for all our families. I will stop there, and I think we are passing it back to you, Counselor.
Thank you, Miriam. I am going now to, I'm going to see if Chief Solaris Serrera is with us, who has a hard stop at 10:55, which I'm going to hold you accountable and keep you here longer, so don't you think you're just gonna show up for like 2 minutes. If you're here, okay. I'm gonna move. Are you here? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so you're gonna give us a little bit of extra time, my love, because
I'm going to say thank you to whoever is running tech or administering. I've been trying to drive and do the Zoom since like 10:05, and it's been a mess. So yes, I'll make sure to stay for a couple of minutes longer, Counselor. Thank you all. Thank you to the panelists. The Counselor, to your point, the story that the parent was telling earlier, as a former ESL teacher and somebody who's a daughter of somebody who's also had to learn the language, I feel very touched. And I serve on the board of English for New Bostonians, so I'm really happy to see our partners here in the panel as well. My remarks are going to be brief, mostly because we believe that BPS is the one with the content expertise, and they are thinking about different ways of better serving our immigrant students as well as their families. But I will say that we believe and understand that in order for us to truly build a public school district that is reflective of our population and our needs and strengths, we must serve the whole child, and that includes their families, whatever the definition must be is of that particular family. And the practice of equity requires that we set the appropriate interventions. So from the administration side, how we are supporting BPS in that goal of better serving ELL students and their families, we have a couple of initiatives. I'll only speak for the ones under the equity cabinet, but there are many other ways in which we're thinking about a family-friendly approach to our work. First, and Councilor, you're very familiar with this, we have the Language and Communications Access Office. The goal there is to operationalize interpretation and translation services. We have been working with all departments across city workforce, and we have a very strong partnership with BPS's Office of Language Access, formerly known as Interpretation and Translation Services, so that we learn best practices from them and they learn best practices from us. We also have something that we're very proud of, our civic organizing programs under both immigrant advancement and Black male advancement. The opportunity there is for folks that identify as immigrants or as Black men, and if they happen to also be parents, to truly come in and understand first, how does city government work? How can it be improved? And for them to build community. And we always think that that's an opportunity for us, for folks to also just practice the language. And so we definitely welcome you all to visit our website to learn more about those programs and how you can be involved. And in the next year, we plan to have multiple cohorts again, given the different investments that we are requesting this year. And last but not least, for those parents who may need immigrant supports, through our Office of Immigrant Advancement, we just recently gave out $700,000 in grants for legal services to be expanded to community-based organizations that are the ones that are directly working with the residents that are in need of these services. And so these are all just different ways in which we are creatively thinking about investments that are touching the residents' lives directly, particularly through our partners, community-based organizations. So this is just a hearing that we're looking forward to hearing more and learning more from our partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And I really do appreciate you joining us. I'm going to go straight into questions from my colleagues. Given the time crunch that we have, I would love for you to focus specifically on this particular docket, which is the family engagement and parent engagement. Questions that you have for our panelists and the administration. And then we're going to quickly transition over to picking back up with the accountability piece, okay? So I'm going to go in the order of arrival, and I believe we started off with Councillor Flaherty. You now have 5 minutes and the floor.
Very good. I'll be very brief, Madam Chair. Thank you for hosting, and obviously for those that are participating, and particularly those that shared their personal stories and their struggles and their perseverance. This council has always supported our new Bostonians and our English language learners, as evidenced by the fact that we've created, and I served on the council. I think I'm the only one on the council now that was here when we created a committee for new Bostonians and also put a shoulder into our English language learners. So for me, this was very helpful in listening to the testimony about identifying what's working and what's not working, and how we can collectively work together to continue to make improvements in this area. So very crucial. It's a game changer for folks that are coming to the country to learn English and to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that exist here. We've got a great city, and part of our city's greatness is its diversity, and the folks that are on here and the folks that have had personal experiences and struggles. You guys become ambassadors for others that come here, looking to you for that leadership, looking to you for a connection to those resources. And so any way that we as a city council can help new Bostonians, English language learners, family engagement, nothing better, nothing more important than a parent and grandparents' engagement with their son or daughter or their grandchild's education. Hands down, probably one of the best things that they can do. One, it improves their child's chances of getting a great education. But two, we know that from across the city, schools that have strong parental participation are schools that perform better than schools that don't. So it's a very important key to our success here as a city. And that's the future of our city. You guys are the future of our city. So look forward to continued working together. I appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts, Madam Chair, and I'll continue to listen to my colleagues' questions as well as any other testimony that comes forward from the panelists. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Flaherty. We really do appreciate you showing up, speaking up, and being alongside us to listen and learn. I am going now to Counselor, and I also, before I move on to my Counselor colleague, President Flynn, just wanted to also make note for the record that we've also been joined many hours ago with Counselor Anderson, my co-sponsor, as well as Counselor Arroyo. I'm going to move on now to Counselor President Flynn. You have 5 minutes on the floor.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia, for this important discussion and for your work for many years on supporting English language learners and our immigrant neighbors. Like you, I'm proud to advocate for the importance and expansion of resources for English language learners in our culturally rich and diverse public school system and throughout the neighborhoods of Boston. We teach students language and professional skills that help students thrive in our city for the rest of our lives, and our BPS team plays a critical role. These students are our friends, our neighbors, and they're the lifeblood of our diverse neighborhoods throughout Boston. And as we continue to teach English language learners, we need to ensure that we are doing everything in our power to support these students throughout their time in this system. Behind every student is a larger community of teachers, of parents, of guardians, caregivers. So it's important we work together, provide a solid foundation for these caregivers. And as a council, as a body, we need to really close that academic gap as well. Let's provide students with language access support. Other social services are also critical and part of this success. And that includes food access and support for families. Boston Public Schools English language learners, students deserve our support. That will be crucial to their future development and success in Boston. And I also wanted to, I guess my question that I have is, with the changing city, and maybe Councilman here, you can help me ask the appropriate person, but with the changing city, with new immigrants often coming in, how are we tracking immigrant communities coming in? What languages are spoken? And how do we know we're reaching these young students in BPS with different languages and connecting them and connecting their parents with social services and with that critical language access as well?
I would probably say, Councillor Flynn, that either Chief, who oversees the equity, may be able to provide some insight in terms of how we're setting our residents up for success when they transition to this country. And I think that the administration, with the newcomers with the newcomers and BPS going through that process, may be able to provide some insight. So either one of those two might be able to provide some insight to your question.
Yeah, I'll speak on behalf of the administration. I definitely leave it to BPS to say a little bit more about sort of the day-to-day with families, but we have monthly meetings with our community-based organizations where we are, I wouldn't say tracking, Counselor, necessarily, but we are definitely doing our best to collect numbers, and we're always, Dr. Gabo is our bestie, as we call her. We're often in communication with her, so we have a sense of how many families are coming in on a weekly basis. We also have weekly sort of internal conversations to coordinate resources from housing, from public health to emergency services, et cetera. And so we are not tracking numbers necessarily, but that's something that I'll definitely bring back to the team. But we are in constant communication.
So I can give some insight in terms of what we do at BPS. So we have something we call the Newcomer and Assessment and Counseling Center. So when families move here, they go to the Welcome Center. they fill out a form, and if they speak any other language other than English at home, then they go to the assessment and counseling center where we determine their eligibility for services. Now, even though that's very technical in nature, they also have a teacher and they have access to our family resource specialists who help determine what the needs are. So what we do see from there is some trending of different needs that we have. As a result, for example, we added 3 newcomer learning centers, similar to Binka. I think folks know Binka well, but we've expanded also in Charlestown, Brighton, as well as East Boston, because those are areas of need.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the response. Thank you for the important work you are doing. And Madam Chair, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, President Flynn. I'm going to move on now to Councilor Coletta, followed by Councilor Anderson, then Councilor Arroyo, and I've also been informed that we have been joined by Councilor Louis-Jean. And I also want to make note for the record that we are dealing with some very specific hard stops, and I want to be mindful of that. So if you have any questions for Anna or Dr. Jabot, I think it's time for us to make sure that we get those questions in. Councilor Coletta, you now have the floor. Councilor Coletta, if you're with us, you now have the floor. Okay, so I'm going to move on to Councilor Anderson, who I want to note for the record is the lead sponsor of this particular docket. Sorry that I went out of order. You should have been the first to ask questions.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Also, Councilor Mejia, I've been here from the beginning. I had technical difficulties and my camera is not working, so I apologize that I can't come off camera. As far as my questions are concerned, first I wanted to thank John and Claudia and the rest of the team who have collaborated, the community advocates and organizations who have been working tirelessly on these issues in ensuring that families or parents of English language learner students are supported in BPS and community. So we met. I obviously heard it loud and clear, and obviously this is an issue that's near and dear to my heart, considering that I myself am an immigrant and I deeply understand this issue in terms of how it impacts our community and how it impacts the students' academic success, whether they are supported or not. And so a few years, I would say, well, not a few years, wow, time is flying. So over a decade ago, I worked for BPS, and I would collaborate with what is the program? The Parent University that would also provide ESOL classes. And so I would teach ESOL to parents of BPS as well, out on the side, just out of capacity need. I would take extra hours on the side with Parent University. And I guess for BPS, I want to understand specifically what is the capacity currently for ESOL classes, and then the numbers of parents that are on a regular basis registered for these classes, and what is the projected need or waiting list look like for the future or the next school year?
Thank you, Councilor, for that question. I don't have the specific number with me, so we can get back to you. I do know that through our adult ed office, there are classes, and I can find that information and provide it at a later time.
And so then can you identify the actual programs that are available?
Via the adult ed, I can do that. I can request that as well.
You don't know that answer today? You don't know what programs are available?
Not from the adult ed here with me, no.
Are there any ESOL classes offered through the parent university?
I'm going to look into that right now and let you know.
Are there any ESOL classes offered at any of BPS facilities currently?
I will look into that as well.
Is your answer that you don't know?
Yes, I don't know right now, but I can find that information for you.
Thank you. All information can be found. I appreciate that. So we're just going to go through these questions, and sorry that they may sound like interrogation, and it's not. Not an attorney. Don't want to be, don't pretend to be. I just want to find out information so we can get to a point here of solution, hopefully. And so in terms of, Council Flynn's points in terms of tracking newcomers and needs and stuff like that, do we have any idea, or have we ever surveyed parents to understand the need for ESOL classes for parents? Has BPS ever surveyed families to understand how many, or the need, parents that don't speak English and the need for ESOL classes?
Can you repeat that question, Councilor? I was taking notes on your earlier request.
Has BPS ever surveyed BPS families, like a flyer in the backpack, or a digital, or a phone call, press 1 if you speak English, something? Have BPS ever surveyed parents, families, to understand how many parents of BPS students don't speak English and need ESOL classes?
No, we do not collect information on parents' language preference. We do know we don't have those numbers in a survey. No.
Understood. Thank you. Has BPS ever attempted any type of organizing to include non-English speaking parents in school site council or school parent council? For example, has BPS intentionally said, because you don't speak English, this specifically are for parents that don't speak English, because we know there's a need, or because we understand that this is an issue, we are going to have a separate meeting to educate you on how to get involved in school site council or parent council?
So as you know, we have family liaisons in all our schools, and we do provide professional development to them to better understand what are the needs at the school level, and then provide the necessary referrals to, the earlier points of Councilor Flynn, or like what are the services and supports that our families need. This is done at the school-based level. We do know that our district DLAC, has discussions about this at the central level when parents participate in those meetings. So,
to my question, have you ever provided interpreting or intentionally coordinated school site council and parent council prep or guide or development for parents that don't speak English?
On school parent council and school site council?
Correct.
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And
Anderson, I just want to let you know that I've given you a little bit of extra time because you are the lead sponsor, but just wanted to let you know that we still have a few more colleagues to go and people with hard stops.
Understood. So, thank you. I guess 2 more questions, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. Sorry?
One, just because I did extend time And we still have 2 more colleagues and people have hard stops. So if you have one more question and there's more time for a second round, then you can come back.
Is administration still here?
Yes, and they're going to be leaving soon, and I need to make sure that my other colleagues ask questions.
Is the cabinet chief still here?
She's still here. Yep.
Okay.
And I reset the timer again, so.
Understood. And so I guess I'll make a statement and I'll reserve my questions. In terms of the equity office, the question then is, what is the equity office doing specifically to address non-English speaking parents within BPS parameters? And then obviously my comment is that, Miriam, these questions, or this hearing may sound like not a big deal today, but yesterday, as a chair of Ways and Means, I postponed the budget for BPS because a lot of parents and advocates are writing with concerns about passing a budget that does not necessarily correlate with, proper service or a system that they feel is functioning or is effective. So this hearing, although separate from budget, is totally connected or contingent upon how we move forward. So I would say that this is just another example of things not being available or not properly being executed for families. And Madam Chair, I want to hear back from the Chief of Equity for my question about what is being done within Equity Office to address the need.
Yeah, Chief, if you can respond, that would be great. And then I'm going to move on to Councilor Arroyo and then Councilor Louis-Jean, and then I do have questions, and then we still have a hard stop at 12, so I want to make sure that we get to the second panel. Chief, you now have the floor.
Yeah, I don't think she's here. This happens often. So anyway, I'll reserve my time and come back. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. I was told she was going to stay on a little bit longer. Sorry about that, Councilor Anderson. Okay, Councilor Arroyo, you have the floor in 5 minutes, and if you could keep it within that time frame, then we're going to go to Councilor Louis-Jean, and I also have questions before the panelists drop off.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I just want to say that our English language learner population is really near and dear to my heart. We are chronically underperforming when it comes to a system to taking care of our English second language learners. I was in law school in Chicago when I found out that Massachusetts as a whole, due to the UNS initiative, was actually 49th in the country when it came to folks who are doing bilingual education. The only state we beat was actually Arizona, which at the time was trying to ban Latino studies, period. And so we have a lot of progress we have to make up since we've repealed a lot of that and move forward. And we just have not been able to do that to the degree that I would like us to be able to have done that. I know we've had some instability in BPS in terms of leadership in that specific arena. And my hope is that under our new superintendent, we push further and better. I just want to say that as a city councilor, you have me as an advocate. So if there is a resource push or a leadership or staffing or whatever you need, please feel free to reach out to me, because this is incredibly important to me. My mother was an English language learner teacher for decades in BPS. This is a thing that was very near my own political sort of awakening, came around the UNS initiative or in the early 2000s. And so however I can be helpful to you all, please do reach out to me as an office. I do have one question, which is the district has pledged to add 25 more bilingual programs in the next 2 years. And I just want to know if we feel we have the capacity to do this to the extent with the quality that we have to do it, based on where we are with resources and based on where we are currently. So just that question.
Counselor, thank you so much for your advocacy, and we will certainly be connecting with you. And especially around this piece of Massachusetts and BPS in particular, having much ground to catch up on here with bilingual education. I think as folks know, and we've gotten feedback from both EL task force members and DESE, we want to establish the 25 programs because it is so urgent. Now, your question, which I really appreciate, is also about the capacity for quality programs. What we're doing right now is we've been working with our dual language programs currently, although that's not the only model, obviously, for bilingual. We want to make sure that we are building sustainable programs that are of quality for students as we expand. At the same time, we're looking at adding heritage language programs as well as transitional bilingual programs in order to have multiple ways to have native language access. Another piece here on the timeline that's tricky is DESE requires that we provide plans in the November and January of the year before. So what we're trying to do is make sure that these applications go in a timely manner so that we can really be able to firmly establish these programs.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And I guess I'll ask one more question because they're sometimes interrelated. Where we have, so for instance, with my own nieces, when they came up from Puerto Rico, because they were dealing with a language gap, there was also a push to put them in special education. And so as we deal with that, enrollment declines, showing a higher proportion of students who are in special education programs. And so what is the percentage of the budget going to special education specifically?
The percentage of the entire BPS budget for special education, is that the question?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make sure we have.
And for me, just for context, I like to do that in proportion to the size of the student body. So in other words, when we're talking about it could look smaller in comparison to $1 billion budget, but what I'm really focused on is if we have this many percentage of students doing special education, are they getting a proportionate or equitable amount of that budget? So if it's 30% or 20% or 15% or whatever that total percentage is, are they getting a proportionate or more than proportionate amount to really make sure they're getting the supports and the things that they need? So that's how I evaluate that personally.
Thank you for that question. What we will do is our budget office will follow up and make sure that the chair receives the information. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it for me. Thank you, Councilor Mejia.
Absolutely, thank you. And Dr. Chen, if you could just give us a timeline just on the record, like how long will it take you all to get that information to my office so I can share with my colleagues?
Let me check with the team.
Okay, so while you check, I am going to move on to Councilor Louise Jen. And then Dr. Chen, you could respond when there's questions that have been asked. Oh, you have the answer?
Tomorrow.
Okay, tomorrow's Friday, y'all. So we got you. Thank you.
All right.
All right, good job, Councilor Arroyo. You've finished within your... Okay, so I'm going now to Councilor... Louise. And you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to my colleagues for their work. Proud to be a co-sponsor on the docket for parents of English language learners. It's incredibly important that we get this right. Our students who are English language learners they bring an asset, and their parents bring an asset to this city. And being able to speak a second language. And I think that it's important for us to think about how we're using that, not only to strengthen the education outcomes for the students themselves, but for the entire school environment. How are we making sure that everyone in the school environment is benefiting from the assets that our students and their parents bring to the table? There are so many advocates on the call. John Mudd has been advocating for years for native instruction for our young kids. Dr. Gabo has been doing incredible work at IFC, the team here from Office of New Bostonians. And I'm encouraged by BPS increasing the number of welcoming sites that we have for especially our new arrivals and our English language learners. I have been a big advocate for increased live classrooms for students with limited or interrupted formal education. And I think that we need to be doing more of that. But I think, by all accounts, we need to increase the resources that we have on hand for our parents. And so we have these formal ways, and I did join late, so I apologize. But I'm wondering if we are able to, in the schools where we have a large concentration of English language learners, everywhere from Binka to East Boston to Charlestown, are we able to conduct parent-teacher meetings in the language of comfort of the parent without a translator? Is that happening?
Miriam, I believe that question is
without the presence of a translator.
Yeah, because there's data that shows that our parents are a lot more, they get a lot more involved and a lot more engaged in school communities when they're able to do so in their native language. So wondering if we are able to make it so that, you know, are we able to do you know, parent-student meetings, parent-teacher meetings in the native language. So I think that would mean, do we have instructors who are also speaking the native language of our students in these school settings?
Okay, and I'm hearing an echo.
Is it possible, Councilor Louise-Jen, to go on mute so that, because I believe the echo started.
Okay.
Thank you.
So in some of our schools, I reported earlier that the Office of Multilingual, Multicultural Education Family Specialist Team, one of the functions that they serve is to provide support at school meetings when requested. Their team has demographically, you know, represented languages of our district. There's a lot of languages represented in that team. In addition, family liaisons at the schools, as you know, a big number of them are bilingual. I believe of the 110, 59 of them speak Spanish, 10 of them speak Haitian Creole. So it is happening in some instances. I know, you know, there's not all of the languages are represented in those positions, and it's also a matter of volume, right, and capacity. So I know it's happening. I don't have a figure to share with you statistically where as to how many, but yes, it is happening whenever possible.
Councilor Louise-Jen, you're on mute. If you have a follow-up, if you're speaking, just wanted to let you know.
Okay, thank you. And I guess a follow-up question there is, are we making it possible for parents who, outside of the ESOL sites that we do have, and if I'm understanding, there are 6 ESOL for parent sites, and there are 9 classes around the city. Is that correct, Miriam? Do I have that right?
I don't have those numbers, but if it was reported, to you all, or was that a number from Claudia?
Those are English for New Bostonian supported sites.
Okay. Councilor Louise-Jen, just wanted to let you know.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. And so, is it that, does BPS itself have those sites? And I apologize because I do know that my colleagues asked those questions. So just want to confirm, do we have any adult for ESOL classes within BPS?
So we have offerings via the Office of Adult Ed. I don't have those numbers with me, but we can follow up with the specifics. We do connect, you know, as Claudia mentioned, like our teams do a lot of referrals. We do collaborate with CBOs that are offering those services. But specific to our adult ed offerings, I will request that information be sent to you.
Thank you, Miriam. And I guess I wonder, in your expertise in working on this issue, what are the biggest barriers that you see in sort of engaging parents who are not native speakers in the school community, and how, what are the biggest barriers? Either is it like the hours that our parents are working, or is it school environment? Just curious to hear from you, like, what are the top 3 barriers that make this work difficult on our end at BPS?
Thank you for that question, Councilor. And, you know, my background before working for BPS was doing a lot of community-based organization. I've known Dr. Gabriel and Claudia and John for many, many years prior in doing parent organizing and parent advocacy. So The concerns that we hear as a district are concerns that we have heard over the years. It's a matter of, being able to connect with families, ultimately at an individual level, right? Like we have to be able to connect with people where they are. We have a lot of families that come I see you, Counselor. Throughout the year, we have families that come, at April, May, and we connect with them in the best way possible. So it's an ongoing effort. I would say it's finding and connecting with people in the best way that works for them. So we know that families in schools are very dedicated to finding ways to connect with families, sometimes in the mornings, because if they have third shift, they may have, availability in the morning. Sometimes parents connect best after hours, after 5 o'clock. So we as a district have to continue to work with families in whichever ways work best. So all of the above, I would say. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor Louise-Jean. I just wanted to be mindful because you were one of the co-sponsors. I've allowed you to go a little bit extra, but I do want to be mindful that we do have a hard stop. So I'm going to move on next to, I'm not sure if Counselor Coletta has come back, so I'm moving on to my questions. And I'll also time myself in the interest of keeping myself accountable. I have 5 minutes. So for those who know, I was on the EL task force. I'm an English language learner, and I've done a lot of work in the education space with parents in particular. And to Counselor Anderson's question, I just want to uplift that there have been times throughout, whether before I was a city councilor and even as a city councilor, where I've had to provide native language educational information about what is a parent council, how do you participate, how do you acclimate in the language that, in Spanish, to acclimate recent arrivals into the culture of being engaged, right? So I do believe that there is an opportunity to really work in partnership with other organizations that are really doing this work and providing more investments. Because we do know that BPS can't do it all, but we have a lot of amazing partners that are doing this work that can help stand in and fill in the gap. Because I know that as a Boston Public School graduate, my mom still to this day struggles with reading and writing even in her native language, let alone speaking in English, right? So our parents are better prepared to advocate when they're children, when they know what their rights are, and when they're able to sit in IEP meetings and hearing things in their native language. Because even translators are not equipped to really help provide parents with the guidance that they need when they have to navigate the special education IEP process. There's a lot of work that we need to be doing in this space, and I'm really hopeful that as a collective here in this hearing will provide us some pathways to what that looks like. So in terms of some questions that I have in particular, I'm just curious, has BPS considered providing English classes for parents, and are they committed to providing English classes for our parents, like in a real intentional way, looking at the Sumner, looking at some of our schools in East Boston? Like, what is the pathway, and can we start piloting programs that are super intentional? Like, what does that look like, Miriam?
Thank you for your question, Counselor. So this is an ongoing commitment, as you stated. I was just at the Sumner last Friday, holding a breakfast meeting that our academic soup hosted to provide support for Spanish-speaking families, and we had a great turnout. And I want to publicly thank you for the push that you did several months ago in that direction. There were over 20 parents in the room who at the end were extremely committed to continuing learning together and supporting the merger design team moving forward. So we are encouraged by that. But as you well shared, this is a work that has to be done intentionally, one school at a time, it's a matter of capacity for us to be able to also address the needs. That said, we are committed to continue thinking of, the necessary structures that we need also at the central level. My team provides a lot of support on capacity building for facilitation skills to our colleagues to be able to host better meetings, better presentations, to be able to involve families as we are creating plans and involving them. So yes, we are committed to continuing that work, and with your support as well in thinking about how we can, as a city, continue to provide the resources. I know the translation and interpretation, as you saw in the presentation, is an area that the district has continued to commit resources, and you can see the increase year after year. And I think that speaks to, as families and schools feel that there is capacity, we will.
I'm going to be really, I just because I've only asked one question so far and I have 30 seconds left. So I just want to make sure that I'm using my best time here. I just really want to get to a point when we're looking at BPS and the investments that we're making for English language learners and family engagement, that I can get some dollar amounts, and that this is the return on the investment. We're going to pour hundreds of thousands of dollars to support nonprofit organizations. We're going to partner up. Like, we're getting to the point where, as we look at this budget, is really looking at how can we help ensure that BPS is set up to meet this moment. And I think that that's the sort of stuff that gets a little frustrating when we don't have the time to really unpack. So I just want to go on the record to state that I think that there's still so much more work that we need to do in the family engagement space. And I look forward to supporting the investments that are going to help you be successful. So because I want to be fair with my own time, regardless of whether or not I'm a sponsor, I know that I only have a limited time with the rest of the panel that are here. So I'm just going to move on to docket 0165. And I wanted to make sure that I know I have some folks that are here for both dockets, so please stay along. And if you have to jump off because you will only sign up for the family engagement, parent engagement ELs, you are welcome to leave. But I wanted to just transition quickly into the next conversation, and that is docket 0165. And since we've already heard from Dr. Chen, I'm going to go straight to, I'd love to hear from, I'm going to switch things up a little bit. Just in the interest of making sure that all voices are heard. And I'm going to ask I'm going to have Maria give us some of her opening remarks. Instead of John, I'm going to go with Maria first. I'm going through my list here. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with all of this.
Buenos dias, good morning, everyone. It is my commitment to, let me backtrack and saying that I come not only as a member of the task force, but I come before you today to consider a few aspects as a mother of a bilingual, proficient bilingual young woman who is now a teacher. And I also come as someone who witnessed the Transitional Bilingual Education Act when it started to be implemented in Massachusetts, when I was one of the first Portuguese bilingual teachers, where we had a classroom, we had the students, we didn't have any materials. Still, it was better than an English-only environment. So let me start by saying that there are three main points that I would like to bring to our attention. I wish I could have a rosy picture to provide to you. I'm hoping that in the near future, when we come back a year from now, that several things would have been changed at BPS. It troubles me to see over 90% of all the ELL population, which I choose to say bilingual ELL because I think they should become bilingual. It troubles me greatly that over 90% are failing the MCAS. They are not learning English well enough to be able to pass ELA, and they are not knowing getting access to math. And I think this is immoral. It is my great interest that we figure out what needs to be done that we know of since 1971. And access to home language is absolutely, absolutely essential. And the philosophy of English only, and I must confess, I was a bit troubled to hear such emphasis on learning English, which I believe is important, but I will dare say to learn English alone is not enough. So access to home language is the best way, if the goal is to have people learn English well, even for parents to learn English. Bilingual education is good for them. Access to home language. Currently, there are 4 main ways that they are done. Boston spends 7%, I should say 7% of the students who have access to dual language is a very limited number. And I would love to see between now and maybe 5 years from now, what is the plan to benefit all families and all community members, because everybody should be invited to value, honor, and use their home language along with English. Bilingualism, as we know from the research, is critical in terms of the benefits it has. And it troubles me to see that the emphasis continues to be on SEI, which is one of the programs that produces the least results. So we know that bilingual education is the way. If we want kids to learn English well, and we want kids to do well academically, we need to provide either transitional bilingual education long-term and dual language program, but the limit right now is huge. Additionally, the Office of OMME from the task force did receive a recommendation of multiple ways that our students at BPS can have access to home language through the arts, through other ways, which I'll be happy to attach to my written testimony. There are many different ways of really providing opportunity for our bilingual children with and without disabilities to have access to home language. And the research is clear. Music, for example, enhances and helps literacy. So it is critically important that for the summer and for next year, that we think of a plan. I will invite the Office of OMME to please give us a strategic plan for summer and for next year, that students who are now in school, the many thousands with and without disabilities. So what are we going to do to help get them to learn and reach academic level? As a reading teacher in special education, I never found a student who did not learn to read. They don't pass the MCAS, they are not learning to read. They are leaving school illiterate. And this is really not acceptable. How many minutes do I have?
You have 22 seconds.
Oh, well, okay. I will provide the rest on my testimony. I would like to say that the time is now to really face the realities. I know that current administration inherited a lot of things from the past, but we need to move beyond. There is a need, an urgency to really address this in steps now. Access to home language is a top priority for the summer and for next year. And I will end by saying, quoting a poet that I like so much, Gabriela Mistral, when she says, "Children cannot wait. Their future is now." Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Always great to be in your presence. So I really do appreciate your remarks and the accountability, and I think we can all learn a lot from being in community with each other. I'm going to move on to, in the interest of time, and Mr. Mudd, don't think because you're my friend, I'm going to let you talk longer. You got 5 minutes, okay? And I'm going to time you. 5 minutes. And you're on mute. That does not count. Let's start all over. Ready? You're still on mute. Could someone unmute John? John, you're on mute. Get your mute together.
There, you'd think I'd know by this time. I got 25 seconds gone. Okay. Thank you, Chair, and your colleagues for holding the hearing and for allowing me to hold forth. I don't need to repeat what Maria Serpa said about the current system is not working for English learners and English learners with disabilities. And I think the evidence is that there are a couple of really critical priorities that we need to pursue. And those are expanding access to native language, and that the superintendent and school committee and Linda Chen and Miriam here are all committed to expanding access to native language. And secondly, to increasing bilingual staff within BPS, is essential to expand native language. And I've learned a lot through the exposure to the English Learners Task Force. And I'm going to make a blunt statement, which I think is true. And that is that building on the foundation of native language is a better way to learn academic English. And I'm going to repeat that, is a better way to learn academic English. We also, I believe in biliteracy, I believe in seal of biliteracy and all of that stuff. But for those parents, and frankly, for those administrators at the central office and school leaders who are still in BPS and still living under the heritage of as Councilor Arroyo said, the UNS Amendment, which is English immersion, we need to make a major effort to change the mindset at BPS. It's not simple. This is a super tanker that's on course, and it's on the wrong course. But we need to be very consistent that access to native language provides a better foundation for learning academic English and a foundation for becoming biliterate. I'm not against that, but please hear, and we need to make a major effort to change that. And that means, and here I disagree a little bit with what my colleague and friend Maria Serpa has said. I believe the evidence, there's a chart here that people use all the time, Thomas and Collier, and it shows the various successes of different approaches. But it shows that any program that provides access to native language is better than general education with ESL. And today, we have 45% of English learners levels 1 to 3 that are the most needed, that can't do academic English, are in general education with ESL. And the trend has been to pull people out of programs that have an access to native language in the teachers and put them into gen ed. That's the wrong direction. We applaud the commitment to provide new dual language programs, but they are difficult. I believe that single language SEI classes, where there is a teacher that speaks the language of a group of students speaking a like language, is a better way to help those students progress than just general education with ESL. And I think there is no reason that BPS can't build on that basis. Right now, let's move to the need for teachers. Right now, in only 1/3 of those classes, can BPS show there's a match between the language of the teacher and the language of the student. That can be changed. You can hold school leaders accountable. You can make the diversity of language part of the diversity goals of school leaders. I could go on, Chair, as you know, but I'm 2 seconds away on my clock, and I thank you for hearing me so far. I'm open to questions.
Okay, John.
I did pretty good, didn't I?
You even have 18 seconds left. I am so proud of you. I appreciate you staying on time and on the course. I believe that Vanessa is not available to speak just yet. So I am going to move on to Dr. Vianney and then move on to my council colleagues' questions. And then if Vanessa's back, we'll come back to her. So Dr. Vianney, you now have 5 minutes and the floor. and you've heard a lot, so I would love, you probably have remarks already with PowerPoint. I don't know what you have set up, but I would love to hear you respond to some of the things that you heard throughout the conversation that we've been having. It would be helpful. Viviani, I believe I'm pronouncing your name wrong, and please school us all so we can get it right.
Counselor, if I might, Dr. Viviani was made available to respond to questions, but we're seating at any time for a presentation, but she can certainly respond to.
Oh, perfect. Thank you for letting me know that, Dr. Chen, because my script says otherwise, but I'm happy to know that she's here available for any questions. So with that, I'm just going to dive into questions from my colleagues. I do have lots of questions, so I am going to hope that I can get through them in the next 10 minutes. So I'm just going to ask my colleagues if you have a question or a comment that you'd like to make, to please let us know. I believe that looking at this, it seems like Councillor Anderson, who is one of my co-sponsors, is here with us. So I'm going to start with the lead co-sponsor of this hearing order. Councillor Anderson, you now have the floor. All right. I am going to, all right, so Dr. Chen, in the absence of, I kind of feel like a lot of your opening remarks really addressed a lot of the things that we were unpacking in this docket 0165, but would like to kick it back to you so I can give my colleagues some time to join for some questions in regards to just, would love to hear any reactions that you have from some of the comments that you heard from Maria or John in regards to kind of like the moment and where we're at and what we need to do to course correct.
Sure. I so appreciate both Dr. Serpa and Mr. Mudd, because we have a number of opportunities to speak and share, and especially around this work around native language, the importance of native language support. And I 1,000% support the research that John Mudd shared, which is, when we think about, we know and acknowledge that some of our immigrant families have fears of their children learning in their native language because of the way things happen in our country. And there's fear in that. But we also want to make sure our families understand, not only is it about cultural affirmation, but really students are able to acquire academic language development in English better with a solid foundation in native language. So I know ever since I was a teacher and a principal, I've highly encouraged my families to read aloud, spend time talking and being proud of speaking your language at home, because it serves as such a significant foundation to being literate in English as well. So I just want to affirm the points that have been made and also appreciate their support and helping us find solutions. The time is now. We've been waiting a long time, and I could not agree more, but it's going to take us working together in tandem to really overcome these barriers. Our students deserve more than what the state unfortunately has provided historically, and we have a lot of ground to make up here.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. I see that Councillor Louis-Jean is here and wanted to know, Councillor Louis-Jean, you have 5 minutes for some questions, and then I'm going to move on to my questions because we have the administration for the next 8 minutes. So 3 minutes, sorry, because we have less time. Councillor Louis-Jean, you now have the floor.
Thank you. And I just want to first off by repeating, I know that this is a mammoth of a challenge for BPS, and I just want to acknowledge that I know that folks who are doing this work wouldn't be doing this work if we didn't also care about our students and our English language learners. So at least for me, the questions are coming from okay, we are working together collaboratively. How are we showing up for our families? And I was not an English language learner myself. I grew up in a bilingual household. So I grew up speaking English and I grew up speaking Haitian Creole. And brought both of those with me to school, but sometimes not by choice, because my father, even with his heavy accented English, was the one who started our parent council at the Taylor School and led it for even after all of my sisters graduated. And so I think about that a lot, and I think about my father, and he was his own teacher back in his homeland, so he had his own initiative, and there's so much of that. There's so many of our parents and our families who come from their home countries with all of this education, with all this training, and they come here and they're either bus drivers or they're doing something to make ends meet. I'm wondering if there's ways to tap into that resource that communities have, that they have this resource from back home, but when they come here, they're trying to learn the language, they're bus drivers, they're working in the healthcare industry, but they do have this expertise and this knowledge about either in the education space or in another space that could be beneficial to us. Are there ways for us to tap into that and to figure out what that is and to use that? Because my father has his own initiative, but not everyone is going to be like my father, right? There are other people who need more pulling to pull that out, what they're able to offer school community. So how are we able to tap into what our communities already have innate in them, but they don't necessarily have the strength or the power or haven't been able to actualize that in a school setting?
Counselor, thank you for that question. I think it resonates strongly with me too, in terms of growing up as a daughter of immigrants and families feeling empowered to do something. I want to lift up also Renee Barrero. She oversees our family resource specialists in the multilingual and multicultural department. I know we don't have time, but I just want to make sure to know that she will be a resource as well. But part of what that team does is they have connections to different language groups within the city of Boston. And what we try to do is work through them. And I so appreciate them because they know who the folks are in the community by language group and really work to support the empowerment and agency of those families and their voices in the schools. And we do that in partnership also with Ana Taveras' office and the family and community advancement work. But that is needed work that we need to do more of. And Chair, if there's time, Renee could talk about that, but we can also follow up with some additional examples.
Yeah,
but we look forward to partnering with you to do that work.
She could definitely uplift that. And then, like I said, I want to be really cognizant that we have a hard stop at 12, and I want to also make sure that I get some questions in. So if you don't mind, you could uplift that, and then we're going to transition.
Renee, if you can just mention what your team does in the languages represented. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Reinelda, also known as Renee. I've been in BPS for 37 years. I started as a parent volunteer. I'm also a graduate of Boston Public Schools. And I have to say that our team, they're either currently BPS parents, have been BPS parents, BPS graduates themselves, and we represent the major languages in BPS. We currently hold bi-monthly meetings for English learner advisory committees in parent language. What else? And we're here, we make ourselves available for families.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, can I just have one more comment quickly?
Yes, I just want to be mindful of the time, Councilor Lujan, so you could just, yeah.
Yeah, and thank you, Renee, for that. I think, I just want to say that we need to continue off of the work that we need that has been built. We've been having this mandate to provide native language instruction, and we're sort of not meeting that moment. So there's still more work to do, but sometimes we have models for what already exists. There's a great partnership, Office of English for New Bostonians is doing really great work with adult ESOL. How do we expand what's already working? How do we expand these community partnerships? I think part of the problem, really, when you're looking at urban settings and urban education, the need is so great. We are asking our schools to do so much, not just for our students, because our students can't thrive if we're not also caring for the family. So that's in part what we're doing here. We're asking, what are we doing for the parents? But it's also not on us. We can't expect BPS to do everything. There's so much to do. So these community partnerships with organizations and nonprofits that are already doing the work is so important. As we transition and look at a hub school model, it's really about how do we bring more partners, and not just business partners, our nonprofits at every level to help with the trauma that our students are dealing with, but also to help. Trauma is sometimes intergenerational, right? So helping the parents really does help the students, and I think organizations like ENB really do that for our new arrivals, our immigrants who have been here for years, and they have a model that is successful that we just need to continue to nurture and grow and support with our resources. So just wanted to put that out there just a show of support for what already exists, because I don't always think we need to be reinventing the wheel. How do we get better at what the seeds of what already exists?
Thank you, Councilor Louisiana. I really do appreciate you uplifting the importance of collaboration, because, you know, I always say that Boston is resource rich, but coordination poor. Everybody already, you know, we all figure out how to do the work, but what we have yet to figure out is how to do that work together. And so this is really what this opportunity brings us full circle to really unpack a little bit further. So I'm really happy that we had our nonprofit partners who are on the front lines doing this work to empower and educate our parents. And I'm looking forward to seeing the return on this conversation and making sure that we're tapping into those organizations to actually fund them to support the work that BPS is looking to do. I'm going to quickly just transition. I do have some questions. I have 2 minutes. For BPS, and I'm gonna, you know, I talk a lot about my own journey being an English language learner, having to learn how to speak English, then being the official translator for my mom. It takes a toll on students when they have to be the official translator, and sometimes we are cutting corners, and parents don't have time, or appointments aren't able to be met. And I've heard from students that sometimes they're still the ones who are translating. So there's still some work that we need to be doing to ensure that families are able to, not just that translation, but that they are able to hear information in their native language. Because native language is an asset. When I came to this country, I didn't want to speak Spanish. I wanted to be anything but Latinx, right? Because of all of the things that we carry when you're different, right? So there's just so many different layers of this conversation that we're just right now, uplifting just the access and information sharing that we can be doing to better understand where we're at. You know, what I do know is that teacher diversity is a big part of that. And that also includes language diversity. I think that is one of the things that we've been talking about. We talked about it in the ELL task force many years ago. And right now, only 11% of teachers are Latino in a school system that has 43% Latino students. And there's still a lot to do to close that gap. And I'm just curious, as we continue to have these conversations, what are we doing within the English language learner space to increase our native language capacity?
Thank you for that question. It's so important because to increase native language access, we have to have those who can speak it. Our department we partner with equity as well as human resources to make sure that recruit and retain teachers of color and teachers who speak other languages. As you may know, in our system, we rely on self-reporting of what languages staff speak. And in terms of what we have information now, is that we have about 2,400 teachers who speak another language other than English. We also have about 770 paras that speak other languages. Oh.
So this is a really key point that I want to make. Yes, I do appreciate the ability to speak a native language, but I also just want to push us a little bit more on the cultural competency piece, right? Is to ensure that we have native speakers that are also culturally relevant to that culture. So I just want to uplift that, because there are a lot of, and there's nothing wrong with it, but there are a lot of white folks who speak Spanish, but speaking Spanish and living Spanish are two very different things when it comes to navigating this conversation. So I just want to uplift that as something that I want to say. And I also want to just uplift that I know that Councilor Anderson has returned and has her hand up. I do have one more question. I'm going to yield the rest of my time because we're on a time crunch. Councilor Anderson, I'll go to you. I'm going to end my time here with just one last question to Dr. Chen. And this is in regards to special education. Knowing that students with disabilities are unenrolled and in dual language programs and do not have adequate EL support, What do you see as your role and your commitment to ensure English Learner Support Center's neurodiversity and is inclusive of all students, including students with disabilities?
So thank you for the question. I see my role in making sure that we provide students with access to help them succeed. And that means having native language access and having fully inclusive supports that they need in terms of not just disability, but in terms of their culture and identity as well. So there are a couple of things that we are doing. Some of our dual language schools are looking very specifically at how to make sure we fully include our multilingual learners with disabilities as well. As a person who was a principal of a school that had dual language and a full continuum of services, I am fully committed from the standpoint of having done the work before and making sure that our students get what they deserve.
That's great. And I'm going to transition over to Counselor Anderson because I'm getting notice that the administration needs to leave, and I want to, out of respect, make sure that my co-sponsor has an opportunity to get some of her questions in. Counselor Anderson, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Counselor Mejia. I appreciate you allowing me to speak. As a lead sponsor to and a co-sponsor to the other filing with you, Counselor, Madam Chair, I think that, there needs to be a precedent set here where the administration continues and I hope that folks here don't take this personal. The administration continues to make this a habit where everyone has a hard stop. Everyone has a hard stop. These hearings are typically for 3 hours, and the expectation is that the administration plans and prioritizes to be present. And so it's difficult to have a conversation on 2 different dockets, 2 different filings within just 2 hours. I'm hoping that we can continue the conversation. And in the interest of time, I guess I want to close by saying that the purpose for filing this was that community advocates that are organizations that are providing these services would like to find a better way to connect or collaborate with BPS, not reinventing the wheel, not to create a different way. I've worked in the service and actually have taught and provided ESL classes and services to the community. I've worked in BPS and deeply understand the liaison position, the FCOC position, the counselor position, and now understand that the parent university does not provide those services, but it's supposed to be an extension of services, not only to give parents college credit to support their own careers and pathways, but also to support them in learning how to assist their own children at home with homework to aid their children in academic success. And so the problem with that is if you're not providing ESOL and parents don't speak English, then I'm not sure how you're going to get to the goals that you claim that you're going to get to. So if Parent University is supposed to be doing that, how can we assist in making sure that we build these relationships with organizations that do have capacity? Because that's the point. You can have funding and contractual, or you can create partnerships and collaborations with agencies that are providing the services, so that BPS is not inundated. To Councilor Lujan's point, BPS is not inundated with these services, and so that we're not reinventing the wheel. We're looking at maximizing a thing that already exists and how to collaborate with people that do have the capacity in order to provide those services. So those 2 points, I would say, moving forward as a counselor, I would like to continue to work with you, but these hearings continue to be short changed by everybody has to leave and hard stops, and administration shows up, the equity department chief shows up and she's here for 10 minutes and then drops off. We need to be able to be very transparent and honest about how intentional we are about these issues, or how we're prioritizing the children in Boston. And we need to do a little bit better in terms of our timing. And I would say that, and I say thank you, Councilor Mejia, Madam Chair, for hosting us today and facilitating this process. And I open my office and welcome the administration and anyone who would like to continue this work offline. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Anderson. And in the interest of being respectful of the fact that you all do have a hard stop, and I also want to be respectful to John and Maria and to the advocates who have been here throughout the entire time and have made a commitment to continue to be here. Wanted to give and offer both Maria and John an opportunity for any any reflections based on what you heard from Dr. Chen or anybody else from the administration. And then Dr. Chen or Miriam, anybody from your team to give your final remarks. I think that is just fair to wrap things up in a way that is amplifies all means all. So I'll let Maria go. If you have any closing remarks, 30 seconds. Normally we don't do this, but I'm giving you the opportunity to do that since you've been here the whole entire time and you deserve to be heard. 30 seconds, go.
Thank you. I'm hopeful that things will change, and that's why I'm here. So I hope that as a closing statement, I would like to say that the time is now. I really invite the BPS to make sure that a short-term strategic plan is put in place for access to home language now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm going to go, I saw that John, then followed by Claudia, then I'm going to go to Chen, and then Miriam. John.
Yeah, I would just reiterate what Maria Serpa just said, that I think it would be helpful for us on the outside to have a clear sense from Linda and others, what next steps do you see taking now and over the next months where we could be not only understand what you're planning, to do in the short term and the next year, but also be supportive and, as you know, exercise our right to be critically friendly.
I'm going to go to Claudia and then Dr. Chan and Miriam, if you could both respond to the questions that are being asked, that would be incredibly helpful. Claudia, you now have the floor in 30 seconds.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay. Sorry for my audio before. I sent my comments to all the counselors. Yes, thank you so much. I just want to say we are fully we are here to work in collaboration and to complement the BPS adult education program that's at Madison Park, as well as the dual language programs, native language programs. It's not one or the other, it's both and. And so we're very excited we're happy to have this opportunity, and we look forward to a commitment from the city and or BPS for the FY24 school year to go forward to expanding these programs that we think are really a great model. And thank you so much for everyone's testimony. I've learned a lot today.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Chen and then Miriam. And I really want to just acknowledge and thank you both for staying on a little bit longer. We really do appreciate that time. Dr. Chen, you now have 30 seconds.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia. I really appreciate all the comments that we heard today, and certainly the support of ESOL for our families and continued support in native language, both in learning and access, is really important. And I appreciate our partners who hold us accountable, but also roll their sleeves up and support. I think it is a collaborative effort. And lastly, I just want to thank both Councilor Mejia and Councilor Anderson for giving more voiceover around the dockets. It was really helpful to understand and hear directly from you around the intention of the docket so that we can really support the needs that are, and I hope we can work together with the mayor's office to make those clear so that we can make the best use of everyone's time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I don't know if you answered John's question, but we're going to let you live a little bit longer, Dr. Chen. We're going to move on to Ortiz.
Thank you, Counselor. I just want to repeat Dr. Chen's comments. We are very thankful for your feedback, for your comments, for your advocacy, and for the push. And we look forward to continuing figuring this out for all our families, for all our students, and for the partners that are willing to, walk hand in hand with us as we continue to provide support and access for all our families. So thank you.
And I don't think we have any testimony, anyone signed up for public testimony. So I just wanted to just end with my, I might come across sometimes a little bit too spicy for some people, but if you have been at this as long as I have, as a parent, as a graduate, as somebody who worked in the education advocacy space, I am encouraged by what this moment is calling for, and I'm happy to see the people who are on the other side really helping to move the work, because it's not about us versus them. We have to model a different type of behavior. And I hope that you see even how we're facilitating these hearings is really creating more of a dialogue between usually opposing views, right? This is really an opportunity for us to bring people together. And as the folks who are shepherding this process, it's our responsibility to not only hold ourselves accountable, but to create space for shared accountability, because the City Council approves the budget every year. We also play a role in this. It's not good to just do this. We also have to hold ourselves accountable. And we do that by listening to the people that we serve and understanding that more investments need to be made, and creating space for us to be really clear about what those investments are and making commitments to those investments. So I look forward to our continued partnership, and I really do appreciate where we go from here. I will say that this hearing will remain in committee, and I look forward to getting the answers that were unanswered here from the administration. Thank you, and for the record, this hearing is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right. Bye, you guys. Thank you.